Time is now 11 o'clock. I call this meeting of the McGee Creek Authority to order. Item 2 on the agenda, excuse me, approved minutes of September 20th, 2018 for the McGee Creek Authority meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor? Aye. Do we vote? Would you like us to flip the buttons?
You can flip the button. Yes.
We can turn the lights on. Okay, excellent. Motion carries. Item number 3, items for individual consideration. A, resolution amending the McGee Creek Authority fiscal year 2019 budget. I will send that over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. We have a couple of items that we're working on down in Atoka relative to McGee Creek budget. One of those is the parking lot of the pump station, BOR inspections, drainage culvert replacement, and then there's a 10% contingency in that, so that totals $231,460. So we'd like your consideration.
Thank you, sir. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor? Aye. See, I turned my light on.
Yep.
Motion carries. Item B, resolution adopting the McGee Creek Authority fiscal year 2020 budget, capital improvement projections, projects, and proposed pay plan. Sir.
Mr. Vice Chairman, Lisa Hubble will be giving you an overview of that item.
Very good.
Good morning, Chairman and trustees. On your screen, you can see the current proposed fiscal year 2020 budget. This year's budget is about 5% decrease from last year's fiscal budget. There's a slight decrease in the operations budget of 2.3%. The major decrease is related to the capital improvement plan for fiscal year 20. The decrease for that is 55%, and part of that is due to the fact that, well, it's in alignment with last year's plan that was presented to the trust, the 2018 facility assessment, which proposed immediate improvements and then is going to phase in additional improvements starting in 2023. So that's why there was such a large decrease for that. And then the equipment replacement budget of $168,500. We're now formally presenting the equipment replacement before we would put an estimated budget amount. So now we're falling more in line with our other practices. So that will be the item that you consider under C. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. This time, do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion is second. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Item C, resolution for McGee Creek Authority appropriating McGee Creek Authority funds as such become available for fiscal year 2020, equipment replacement and estimate cost of $168,500. So are we going back to you? We've already discussed that. Is there any other discussion on that?
If you'd like to discuss it, actually we could ask Ron to come up and discuss the equipment replacement, but Ron has worked with our fleet services manager to go over the replacement for all the equipment, which is attached to your agenda item, a summary of it.
Okay.
All right.
Is there any other questions or comments, Mayor? Okay. This time, do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve. I'll second.
Motion is second. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Item D, resolution directing the general manager to request participation to make election regarding annual adequate cost of fiscal year 2020 in accordance with the McGee Creek Authority Amendment Trust Indenture. Mr. Brown.
This is our annual adequate share agreement, and this would be for the year 2020 in accord with the indenture, and we'd be happy to answer questions that you may have in this regard.
I have none, sir. Is there any other comments? Hearing none, do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor? Aye. Item passes. Item E, consideration fiscal year 2020 loan agreement with the Oklahoma City Water Utility Trust, estimated at $2,407,500. Any comments on your behalf on this? Okay. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve?
Motion is second. Roll call. All those in favor? Sorry.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item F, ratify and approve amendment number 1 to contract for professional engineering services with Smith's Robert, and excuse me if I butcher this last name, Balschwiswalder LLC.
Close enough.
Was that close?
Close
Okay.
enough.
Okay. Extending terms of contract to March 31st, 2019. Project WMCOTE, Independent Engineering Services with McGee Creek Authority. Sir?
Vice Chairman, we have a trust engineer that's assigned to Aquit, McGee Creek, and OC. They're all the same engineering firm. Their contract expired, or would have expired, December 31 of this past year, so we extended that contract to enable us to solicit proposals to select another engineering firm to be the trust engineer, which would in turn be the MCA engineer and our OC engineer. So in this case, we're asking you all to ratify that extension, even though we're doing it kind of at the end of their extended period. And then we have selected them, just for your information, we have selected them for the next 3 years with 2 one-year renewals, and we are in the negotiation process with them at this time.
Thank you, sir. This time, do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item G, resolution ratifying the actions of the general manager in approving plans and specifications to be advertised for bid. Sir?
Mr. Vice Chairman, Larry Hare will come up and give you a short summary of those items included in this agenda item for your consideration.
All right, thank you. I don't have anything to show. I was just going to discuss what we have done. The Bureau of Reclamation periodically does inspections on the dam, and they have recommended some improvements. We did a condition assessment with our trust engineer, SRB, and they also recommended some improvements to the pump station and to the headquarters building. So we rolled all of that into one project, and we opened bid on February 27th. Elements including in there, as far as the Bureau of Reclamation is concerned, is to repaint gates inside the dam, as well as to fix a leak on a gatehouse on top of the dam and replace an electrical conduit that provides power from the gatehouse to the pump station. For SRB improvements, they consist of 2 elements. One is around the pump station itself, which is to replace the parking lot, as well as the culverts there on the west side of the parking lot. The second element are pretty much drainage improvements around the headquarters building. We also added an alternate to the bid, which was to replace a failing retaining wall there on the east side of the headquarters building, which was not part of the original condition assessment. So the bids came in very well. We added in the alternate. So we request that you go ahead and award the contract, ratify the actions and award the contract. I'm sorry, construction is going to be about 6 months long.
Any other questions?
When will construction start?
We anticipate I'm sorry?
When will construction start?
I'm thinking about, let's see, this is March, next month.
This time, do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Okay. Motion carries. Item H. Item H, resolution authorizing the general manager to utilize arbitrage services for the firm selected by Oklahoma City, fiscal year 2020, estimated cost $490. Is there any comments? Hearing none, do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Item I, selection of Bank First, Ameristate Bank, J.P. Morgan Chase Bank as McGee Creek Authority depositories for the fiscal year 2020. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Item J, receive audited annual financial report and communications related to the audit for McGee Creek Authority for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2018. Do you have anything on that one, sir? Okay. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Item K, ratification of McGee Creek Authority payments for the period of September 12th, 2018 through March 5th, 2019. Do we have any input on that one either? Okay. This time, do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor? Aye. Item 4, items from trustees. Does anyone have anything they'd like to present? Item 5, general manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. We have the operations and lake level pumping report from Ron Butler.
Good morning. Ron Butler, Operations Superintendent, Geek Creek Authority. As far as operations, maintenance, everything was fairly routine the last 6 months. Nothing really stands out. We did have a failure in a pump in the pump station, which we have 4. We did take that out in the fall and returned it back to service this past month. We did receive a new piece of equipment we bought with the money appropriated last year. We picked up a skid steer loader with a brush cutting attachment in December. It's been very, very wet. You'll hear me say wet about 10 times today. Too wet to run that thing, but that's also because of the rainfall hampering some things that are going on out on the pipeline, some small projects that we've been wanting to do. Now we'll move on to the lake level and pumpage. If you'll notice in the rainfall section, the wet months we usually have is in the spring, April, May, and June. Those months were very lacking, which caused us to have a very dry summer. And then out of the ordinary and kind of a repeat from last year, we started getting rains in August, and every month was above normal except the month of December. And we have been wet, wet, wet ever since. Just this week we got a little over an inch of rain the last 3 days. The lake level jumped 3 feet. That's unheard of. Usually an inch of rain didn't hardly affect the lake level, but the ground is so saturated. The pumpage, all the water being used right now and for the last year period has been used by Rural Water District 4. 1 month. April last year we did do some pumpage for some testing and some maintenance. Other than that, out of that 797, 90% of that was used by Rural Water 4. The next sheet, public water supplies, more or less a recap of sales. And there again, you can see in the month of April, we pumped a little bit to Atoka Lake to do our maintenance and our testing. Other than that, in the left column, Rural Water District 4 was the major user for the past year. The column below shows downstream quality releases. That is not part of our allocated amount. It doesn't come out of our part as far as Oklahoma City, the county, and the SOTA uses. But you'll notice the downstream releases, that's the same every year. That's nonstop. That equals about nearly 8,000 acre feet. And something we never talk about that I just, if you'll permit me just to chase a rabbit for just a second. Flood releases. We add these up monthly, and I can't say I've ever added that up at a year at a time, but flood releases, which does not pertain to our operation except for what we do for the Bureau of Reclamation. We do the flood control. Through the gates, we released 198,000 acre-feet. That's 64.5 billion gallons, missed opportunity, I would say, that didn't get used. Of course, when you're in a flood situation, so is everybody else. That water can't go anywhere. We all understand that. That's all I have, if no one has any questions.
Thank you, Ron. Relative to what Mr. Butler just said, we've had an odd year this year. All of our lakes are either full or above full pool. We've been trying to keep Atoka about 5 feet down for the spillway construction, and we have been unsuccessful. So we failed in that regard. The lake is nearly full. Draper is over full. First time that I've said that since I've been here, and I don't think it's been stated in quite a while. So Mother Nature's been good to us. But like Ron said, missed opportunity when you have to divert water. But I think at one point in time, the lake was about 6 feet above full. And so we had to release that water. So we'll see how things turn out this next year. We do have a new lake balance plan that was approved by the Water Trust to keep all the lakes within the various watersheds at basically the same level. So we won't have one lake extremely low and the other lakes above full pool. And we have experienced that in the past. So we have a lake balance plan which constitutes pumping year-round from Lake Atoka and as necessary from McGee Creek. Now, the cost to do that, it adds cost for power, but because we're not pumping maximum in the winter months and nothing in the summer months, the relative difference was a small percentage over what we normally pay for energy for the whole year. We normally spend $10 to $12 million a year for energy. This added about $100,000 to the cost. So it's incidental compared to the advantages we get on keeping the lakes relatively full. The water quality is better because you don't have all the runoff every time it rains from the banks into the lakes, so that the lakes don't get as much sediment in them. In a drought condition, if the lakes are as full as you can keep them, we extend the asset further into a drought situation so that we don't have to curtail water use. And then finally, the settlement agreement requires all lakes to be at relatively the same level at a certain trigger before we can pull water out of the Lake Sardis and the Kiamichi River. So all of those considerations came into play when we evaluated the lake balance plan, and so for $100,000, it didn't take a lot of thinking for us to recommend and then for the trust to approve the lake balance plan. So that's in place today. I spoke just a minute ago about the trust engineer. So we have a selection relative to a resolution adopted in 2014. MCA will use the same engineer as selected by Aquit. Smith Roberts Balterschweiler is that selected engineer. We are negotiating the contract at this time. Hopefully that contract will be negotiated and in place by the end of this month. And then we will bring that back to this body in September for ratification. And that's all I have, Mr. Vice Chairman.
Mr. Browning, just to kind of couple off, once the Hefner-Draper line gets into place, will this alleviate some of those flood releases that we have to have, since we could now pump more water to 3 different locations?
The interconnect will enable Draper to provide water to the entire city. When you look at the respective drainage basins, we have the northwest and the southeast. With that interconnect, a large majority of the water produced in totality for the city will come from southeast Oklahoma. So Your answer is yes, but it's a little bit more complicated. It is treated water and not raw water, so it really depends on the level of the lakes in southeast, along with the level of the lakes in the north and northwest. So the design for our water system will be to bring about 2/3 to 3/4 of the water through the southeast basin. And so if we are in a critical drought situation on the northwest side of the state, which is more susceptible to drought, then yes, we can actually bring more water up from the southeast. Does that answer your question?
Can I ask a question on that one as well? So how does that affect Canton and Oberholzer as well in that whole play of things?
So Overholser, the plant will be decommissioned shortly, in a year or two. We will not be producing water from that plant, but we will continue to use the water out of Lake Overholser as a water supply reservoir. It's going to take the installation of a pumping station, because right now the only way water can move out of the lake is through the treatment plant. So we'll have to construct a pump station to move the water into the Hefner Canal. So that'll give us additional reserve. Now, the effective yield out of the North Canadian River is about 50,000 acre feet. We're permitted for 80,000. During extreme drought, it can get down as low as about 25,000 acre feet. The way we can balance that flow within the river is to use Lake Canton. And so with the water balance plan, Canton, Overholser, and Hefner would all remain about the same level. So as the two lakes here drop, we will drop Canton accordingly. All right?
Thank you, Mr. Browning. Is there any other questions at this time? Do I hear a motion to approve the reports? Accept them, sorry. Okay, okay. Okay. Say again.
She made a motion.
Okay, you say, okay. Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, item 6, citizens to be heard. Is there anyone that would like to address the panel? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to adjourn? All those in favor?